Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. It's great to be back here at One Leeds HQ. We are not on the walk along. I know you guys enjoy the walk along, and sometimes I just do them to get a bit of content out, you know how it is. But shout out to all of you. I understand on a Saturday night, this isn't ideal. And I apologize for you Sunday listeners. I know you enjoy your Sunday hardline with myself and Gabe. And sometimes, it's almost like the perfect end to a weekend, isn't it? If you guys do value our opinion and enjoy the content. So yeah, apologies for that. We have just had to move it. It's my personal circumstance. I can only do it today as well. So I managed to get Gabe on, thank goodness, because we wouldn't have just been able to do it. So smash a like on the video, everybody. Can already see around about 18 likes on the video. So I can see the numbers racking up now. Do us a favor, whack those likes up, everybody, and we'll get into the content. I can see a lot of the OGs in here. Evening, gents. Hey, Sid. Hope you're well. Still celebrating myself. I love that, Sid. How are you celebrating, bud? How are you celebrating? Let us know in the comment section below. Reese said, hope we have a chat about realistically what players are staying and who we want gone, and some realistic replacements or style of players we'd like to see out there. And Andre says, Gabe, make sure Connor is on time today. He tried his best. And I wasn't. Jack Bijol, according to Wacko. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. I couldn't profess to know that much about him, to be honest. We might have to get a Tactico on, an aficionado on. Who knows a little bit about that guy. And we'll have to wait and see the realism of it. But I don't mind that link. He appears to be someone a lot of people rate anyway, and I normally just go on that dial. So that could be good. It's quite nice not being linked to. We mentioned on a video a little bit earlier on today and on previous videos that I think we've got to be scouring the top 3, 4, 5 leagues in Europe for some of these players, very similar to what we did with Rafinha and Ren when he was in the Champions League with them, but decided to take that sort of leap over the pond to England and the Premier League. That's kind of the way I think we need to go about it. But you've also got the likes of Brighton, Brentford, Villa, Fulham, all doing that. So, and Wolves and all this sort of stuff. So we're going to be getting into today, everybody, as well. The war chest that the Niners need to spend. We're going to take it off Daniel Farke a little bit, because I think there's been a lot of heat on Daniel Farke in terms of just the rumours that have been discussed by Mike Keegan, and then obviously of John Percy and the Telegraph as well. We're going to get off that a little bit, and we're actually going to put the pressure on the 49ers, okay? Because we want to balance this out as well. It's not just about Daniel Farke getting the best out of these players. It is also about the 49ers getting this right when it comes to recruitment. So someone who is obviously been at the centre of the One Leeds storm this week when it comes to content about Premier League managers, etc., and kind of got me in hot water, but it was my fault, is Gabe, the American, my friend. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Guess what I think, like my sort of personal theme song. Do you have a personal theme song? You ever think about this, Connor? Like a song that you identify with, like just yourself, your mentality.
I'm getting sort of like Star Wars vibes from you, like Revenge of the Sith-esque. No.
If you're in the chat, if you're in the chat, this is what I have to deal with. What's
the one where it's like dun 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 dun?
That's Imperial March, and no, I mean an actual like song, not a soundtrack to a film.
Okay, an actual song. I don't know.
Yeah. I bet you associate with some kind of crap Oasis song. I can guarantee.
Yeah, I'd probably go with that. All right, Monkey. I know, what would you? What would yours be? California Girls, Katy Perry.
The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, great tune, great drop.
You don't love me now, you'll never love me again. And I just want to say there are some people in the chat right now that seem to be baiting us to talk about other content creators in a negative way. It's not going to happen. Go away. Not interested. It's such a weird thing some of you guys do. Oh, this person said that about you. Oh, this person hates you. Whether they've said something or not, we're not going to sit here and negatively speak about other content creators, no matter what they do. So just enough, right? We'll ban you from the chat if we have to. It's unnecessary SHIT stirring, and just not interested in it. Not interested in it. Especially when you have a theme song like The Chain.
I've got a theme song.
What?
Wait.
Oh God! Don't do it again. Don't play this what you think is jazz.
Here we go.
It's like this weird kind of funk.
There we go. Lifting that move, guys. Right. Okay. Let's get onto it, mate. We're going to be speaking, of course, today, everybody, about the rumours surrounding Leeds United, but we're primarily going to be talking about what Leeds have to do. What do Leeds have to do to attack the Premier League? And I wanted to get you guys on here, get your lists, get your recruitment lists, get your players that you want to target. We've got a WhatsApp group on Patreon. And it's been pretty unbelievable today in terms of some of the lads and lasses on there who have been putting some of their names forward. And they've actually been talking about the level of fee that clubs are spending nowadays, which has definitely obviously increased since we were last in the Premier League. And it feels, Gabe, just to start off with, it feels like it's going to be a fee that we're going to outlay of maybe sort of like on average, unless we get some diamonds in there. I think there was a few that was mentioned on our group chat in particular where there's like 10 to 15 million gems. But aside from that, it feels like some of the clubs across Europe, if we are to go there, maybe some of the smaller clubs are going to see Leeds come in, and maybe they're going to understand the financial situation of the club and the clout that we've got behind us right now. And there's going to be a premium put on that. And it feels like it's going to be a very much a 20 to 30 million pound price tag for a lot of players.
Well, that's fine, but they're also not in a leveraged position if they have 1 or 2 years left on a player's contract. So they can play that game of chicken if they dare. The reality is there are loads and loads of players either available on a free or in the final year of their contract where Leeds will sign them on a transfer and then sign them to a new contract, which would be a renegotiation of their wages as well. So I don't think a lot of these clubs aren't in a position to be as cavalier as you might think. Additionally, I think the transfer market this summer is going to be very, very interesting. You have a lot of players that have gone abroad away from England to sort of, I don't want to say reclaim their careers, but get away from what tends to happen to youth players sometimes, especially if they're from a top 6 academy, is, they're in, I keep saying ecosystems and I kind of want to stop, but they're in an ecosystem that the clubs every year are paying like 100+ million for new players.
Yeah.
In this very difficult avenue to come through. And so then these players, they think, okay, let's go on loan. And there's this erroneous idea that because the championship is one level in the English pyramid below the Premier League, that means it's like just below the Premier League in quality. It's not. So a lot of these players will go to the championship, and if they're not super successful there, they get labeled as a bust and they kind of end up languishing in the lower leagues. Why do that when you can go to a Serie A side, a Bundesliga side, or a La Liga side or a Ligue 1 side and play really well and, either get out of one of those top 6 clubs in the Premier League with a high value, or if you're wanting to come home, you come home with a lot more value. So there are players like Billy Gilmore that come to mind for me who have done really, really well. The opposite for me is like Tammy Abraham. Everyone keeps talking about bringing Tammy Abraham, and I haven't seen him score goals for AC Milan in a very impressive way. So why would I want, you know what I mean? So it's like an interesting way to evaluate players. And I think it's really important to remember that even though in the English system, it's Premier League Championship, in the world pantheon of leagues, it's Premier League, a bunch of other leagues, and then the Championship. Championship's still a very good league, and it has its own unique challenges, but the quality is not quite, it doesn't always translate, as you see with clubs that tend to yo-yo, and managers as well. And we won't talk about that today. So we're going to be doing a video about this next week. I've been really kind of looking on the transfer market to see what would be realistic and what does 140 million buy. Additionally, if you're going to go all in, who do you sell and who can you recruit max value for? We're not going to talk about the sales until we're like done the league, because again, same principle as the manager. I would do it because I'm not sentimental and a sociopath, but Connor doesn't want to do it. He already published a video I wanted to, and he didn't want to. Everyone knows how that went. So right. I think there's a lot of folks out there, and especially depending on who the manager is next season, whether it's Farka or someone else, it's going to be that helps in terms of attracting players and signings for certain amounts of money. So like if a player wants to be at Leeds versus a player just ambivalent, sometimes that's going to change the financial situation. So anyway, lots to discuss. But we can get into some of the names of the short list and positions. But I think realistically, to have a good center attacking midfielder or to have a good striker at the Premier League level or even a really good center half, you have to pay. You have to pay a lot of money. And if you don't want an unbalanced side, you have to pay in a lot of positions. So very interesting.
Yeah, I think it is some really good comments coming in as well. Nathan as well. Sorry, Nathan said accounting for the fee outgoings there will be. I think we need 10 or 12 in. I think there is a couple of frees. Not all 10 to 12 need to be starters. Need debt. And I guess we mentioned this the other night as well. We're kind of in a little bit more of a stronger position when you look at maybe Junior Firpo's out of contract.
Yep.
He's maybe someone who we could pivot on here in terms of wouldn't you offer him a new deal, and let us know in the chat, of course. We've also got a point of which Joe Rothwell goes back. Manos Solomon, who's been a real key cog of Daniel Farke's system off that left-hand side, will also be gone, and you'd expect maybe Levy to push that button a little bit harder when he knows that Leeds are going to be coming.
He wants 25 million. And that gives you a sense of what it costs in the Premier League, right? What it costs.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We're kind of looking at a scenario where Burnley are losing CJ Egan-Riley, or maybe not losing, but he's out of contract. Josh Brownhill's out of contract. They've got the likes of Zian Fleming, who's on an obligation to buy, I believe, and Jaden Anthony's the same thing. But they've got. It's a little bit choppier at Burnley. Leeds are kind of in a good position, really, right now, aren't we, Gabe, in terms of just we haven't got that many outgoings, but it is just more about filling that caliber in for the level of which is the best in the world.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, it doesn't make sense for a guy like Brownhill to not sign a new contract at Burnley. I mean, the reality is that they're going to finish equal or superior or maybe slightly lower than us on points, depending on how we do the last two matches, but they've just given a resounding statement against QPR. So the reality is I know that there's this tendency to want to like raid the clubs going down, but do you want the same outcomes as those clubs last season? I mean, if you bring the linchpins of these teams, it's one thing to like get the best players from them, but a lot of the mid-table teams will be doing that anyway. You really have to look at Europe, and you have to look at players with a certain profile and a certain trajectory. It's not just about, okay, they're a midfielder for X team, they play Y style, and they'll fit in Z role. You have to look at their trajectory, where they're at in their careers. Do they display, because the Premier League is a different league. It's not just, I'm stating the obvious here, but it's very difficult. And really, really good players. I think of, you'll roll your eyes, but I think of Pulisic, right? Plays.
There we go, chat. There we go.
But I mean, he's a great example because he's AC Milan's best player, and he's 2 seasons he's been very, very good.
Yeah.
But do I think the Premier League is the best league for him? I don't know. It depends a lot on fit and things, and the side, and it's all very, and it's high stakes money. If you spend money on a player that isn't going to be right for your side and doesn't give you indicators on the pitch, off the pitch, how do they train? What's their commitment? What have they been like? Like if you target somebody in Serie A who's played for one club his whole life, chances are he's going to be pretty homesick, regardless of what his age is. It's going to take him time to adjust. Is that really the risk you want to take? So there's so much more that goes into it that outside of just analytics. You have to really build a not psychological profile, but kind of a profile of what kind of character you have. And sometimes in English football, that turns into just playing in the English system, and I think that's wrong. And I think that's what you end up overpaying for a ton of an average player. But at the same time, it can go so right. If you do your scouting the right way.
Well, I think you're right, and I've just noticed a few comments there as well. We've heard Michael said Connor Joe from Turfcast mentioned on his podcast yesterday that it's looking promising about Brownhill and Egan-Riley. Do you know what the thing is, Michael and Gabe as well? And I kind of want to get into the teams as well who have just been relegated from the division and just add a bit of context to why I think Leeds are probably in a better position right now. But it's so interesting when you look at Burnley, because this isn't no disrespect at all on Burnley, because we're going to face very, very similar challenges. And I've spoke to Joe about this. There's a likelihood that their best player, in my opinion, the goalkeeper, moves on in the summer window. They're obviously going to get a replacement in. There's absolutely no there's no sort of confirmation that he's going to be as good as Trafford. Trafford is an unbelievable goalkeeper, but James Trafford suffered in the Premier League. He was younger, but he suffered in the Premier League. Coming down to the Championship has massively aided his development, and we can contrast that with a lot of our players. I think different stage of their career, but I think we've it's helped the likes of Dan James in particular, but Junior Firpo as well. Almost. Get back his reputation to what it once was when he signed. But the interesting thing is Burnley. There is a real, and this is probably the different standard. I think there's probably going to be, it's not going to be a reality check amongst us lot, because I think there's a lot of realism on this channel. But I think there's going to be, this is the best defensive team of all time in the Championship. They're they're on record to effectively, if they follow this trajectory again, they've not conceded today again. They've scored 5 goals away at QPR. They don't concede a goal against Millwall home, which is highly likely. They could go a full season with conceding 15 goals. There is a big likelihood that they start the season and they're playing Crystal Palace or Aston Villa or Fulham and they lose 5-0.
100%. So think about how they performed in the cup.
Yeah,
right.
And
that's important to look at.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the point. This is kind of where we're at right now. So it's how do you adapt? What do you do? Do you go into the Premier League to just defend and be conservative if you're Burnley? But then you're opening the floodgates, really, because then you're allowing these top class teams to obviously dictate possession, Gabe, because that's what all of them will do against us newly promoted sides. We're going to have to concede the ball. We know that, but it's not been tested in the Championship. Let's be honest. That rear guard hasn't been tested like it will be in the Premier League.
If you're looking at, let's just say, a net spend of 50 to 60 million after player sales, then that would be an overall spending amount of 140 to 158 and some change million. You're going to have to target better than some of those players. I'm seeing links to Angus Gunn, and if you want to be languishing in the bottom 3, that's where you'll end up being.
Yeah, I think Richard's on the money there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and there are a couple of players. Look, Sam Johnstone, I'm a fan of as well. I mean, he'd cost between 6 to 7 million.
I'd hope for better, but yeah, I would hope for better.
But I'd feel pretty comfortable with Sam Johnstone and Carl Darlow as our goalkeepers.
So for someone like Sam Johnston, sorry to interject there, but someone like Sam Johnston, it kind of brings me back to your point of which you have to have experience, of course you do. But I do then think to myself, is there a pathway at Leeds United and a pathway then in the Premier League, or is it just a bit of a patch-up job for the first year in the Premier League?
Goalkeeper's a little bit different, right? So
they can go for longer, can't they? Yeah,
they can. And again, a lot is going to depend on the defense in front of them. And there are some key metrics for goalkeepers. It's not just clean sheets. That's a team stat. It's not save percentage is obviously very important, but then you have to look at the plus minus in terms of goals prevented. So that's all really important to look at with a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Regardless, you're going to have to upgrade your defense. You're going to have to. We cannot go into the Premier League with Pascal Struijk and Joe Rodon as our starting center halves. I don't think it can happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it can happen. Maybe Joe Rodon. I think he's a better defender than Struijk is, but Struijk is fragile, and
that's interesting.
I continue to see inconsistencies from him, and his Premier League performance was not exactly great. I think if you're going to have, the question is not can these guys play in the Premier League at all, because I think Struijk probably can. Although he's hurt every year, I'd probably sell him while he's young and get good return from him. But that's me being not sentimental again. You have to look at who's going to give us the best chance to have a a mid-table defense, because that's what you need, right? You need to have a mid-table or better level defense. So that means you have to invest. I'm looking at who I'd buy. I'd look at on the left side a guy like Adrien Truffert from Rennes. That's 9-10 million for a left back who's one of the best in Europe. And that's simply because valuations of those players, their contract length is important. It's really important to look at. Let me see, who else would I look at? Okay, so here's somebody I would take from a relegated side. I'd take Cameron Burgess.
Wow,
I think
really?
For depth, yeah. You need to have players. Do you remember the injuries we had in the Premier League at center half? You have to have that kind of depth. Another that you'd get on a free would instead of Burgess would be a guy like Ben Davies, who can play both on the left and center half for Tottenham. But then look at this, like Olivier Boscagli, right? PSV on a free, one of the best center halves in Europe. He's going to go to a top 4 team. So it depends on what you offer to pay, what you offer in terms of who's going to manage this guy. Does he want to play for him? Will it help their profile? It doesn't just become a game of Moneyball where it's just franchises and there are no.
We've got to be clever. We've got to be really clever.
You do.
Yeah, of course.
You do. NDI over at Stade Brestois, another really good. I've been looking at Ligue 1 players a lot. I've been watching a lot of Ligue 1 this year, so you can tell. But again, that's like a £4 to £5 million spend for a center half who has in a better league, it's not the Premier League, but it's better than the Championship, has been performing at a higher level than our center halves. I'm not saying you say to both our starting center halves, all right, there's the door. I'm saying that you have to bring in 2-3 center halves on competitive contracts and let them slug it out and have depth in that position, because you're going to be splashing out 45 million if you want a top striker. You're going to be splashing out 35 to 40 million if you want a top center attacking midfielder. If you try to go budget in those positions, you're going to get budget results. Every single team in the Premier League you can see who doesn't do well are usually like trying to squeak out budget players in those key attacking positions. Central midfield as well, you have to have a lot of depth, right? But you can get a guy like Billy Gilmore for 15 million from Napoli. No, you absolutely can. Do you think he wants to stay at Napoli for the rest of his career?
Well, he's at. Well, I don't know. We're talking about Leeds and Napoli in the same conversation at the minute. I guess
the reality is, I know we have this. The Premier League teams are the top teams in the world. Plain and simple.
It was Rafinha. It was what I'd say is I think some of the options. I think Ben Davies is an interesting one. Off the back, just completely reactionary, of course, without doing any number. I'd like to see how many games he's played this season. I know he's filled in.
Yeah, he's a depth piece. He's a depth piece because you're gonna lose Max Vober, right? He's gone. He'll never play for Leeds again, in my opinion. So you need to have somebody that plays the role he has at the club right now. Tottenham, he's going to live on a free from Tottenham. You can keep him in the Premier League, and he's a very useful player as well. And he has that link with the Welsh boys as well, because you are going to keep Ampadu, right? You are going to keep Joe Rodon. I'm not saying you sell either of those guys. I think Joe Rodon could be Premier League level, but he could go in there and have a nightmare. We don't know, right? So you need to have guys that are ready to step up. I'm getting asked a lot in the chat about American players. People are asking me about Gio Reyna. He needs a new club from Dortmund. Yeah, if you pay like less than 9 million for him, sure. But again, he would be like, I would list him on a depth chart as like he'd be playing what we wanted Brendan Aronson to play, coming off the bench as a CAM, right? I want to spend 35-40 million on a central attacking midfielder. It wouldn't be Gio Reyna.
Well, that's and you've got to kind of go out, haven't you, Gabe? And effectively in the Premier League. I mean, I don't even know if it's a 10 position anymore. I think it's kind of it's a Swiss Army knife when it comes to the midfield position. Obviously, you
know who I want. It would cost us 35-40 million for him. You know who I'd want.
Go on.
We've spoken about it before.
Hamer?
No, you don't. Hamer wouldn't cost 35-40 million.
I think he cost 25-30. He would.
That would be a horrible buy.
I wouldn't mind.
Do you know what the current valuation for and what the people around Manchester City say Jack Grealish would go for? 35 million. That's what they're saying. You would spend, or not? You're not saying you'd spend it, but if anybody's in the position, you don't buy Hamer when you could buy Grealish. You don't.
You do for wages.
I don't think so. The 49ers have they're in the top 15 of clubs in the world for money. Pay his damn wages. Who cares?
Yeah, but is it realistic? And there's going to be a lot of clubs in.
It's realistic if you have a certain. So if you bring other players in from top clubs in Europe, if you come in with a recycled championship side or a relegation side, and you're saying to Jack, "Hey, listen, you're going to be the only one from a top club in this team," then yeah, I don't think it's realistic. But if you bring in guys like Vincenzo Grifo from Freiburg, because he's got 1 year left on his deal, 10 million valuation. That's different than if he had 3 more. If he had 3 more years on his deal, we'd be spending 40 to 45 million for him.
I'd take Hamer right now in the heartbeat.
For that money, you'd spend that money on Hamer.
Not 35-40 million.
No.
It's not my money. I think Hamer. I've had my criticisms of Gus Hamer, but I actually think he can bridge the gap. I think he can bridge the gap pretty well. I think he's a good player. I think we saw a stat the other day. He's attempted and successfully had more attempted through balls than Lamine Yamal this season. I think he's the most in Europe. Every time I watch Sheffield United, he is head and shoulders above any one of their players. The problem is it's discipline, it's injuries. But I just want to bring it back to this as well, Gabe. There's a lot of people who, for me, are speaking about, and I've mentioned this now for months, in terms of the clubs that are going down. And me and Gabe have had this chat. It does frustrate me a lot when you do get the media. The media are doing a really good job at this moment in time, and I do agree to an extent. You look at those 17 teams, and you think to yourself, who is going down next season? If we're to replace one of them. Everton have sorted their what out with Moyes coming in as a solid Premier League manager.
They're still going to have to spend, but yeah.
They're still going to have to spend, but their squad is already of a level with a manager who's got X amount of Premier League experience. He's won a Europa Cup. And look, the pedigree is high. Wolves, I think, have a very talented group. If they sell Matheus Cunha, we might be looking at potentially a bit of upset there because he is their main playmaker, the linchpin of that team.
Connor, you can go down the whole list. Here's what you have to do. This is what I would encourage everyone in the comments to do. Stop thinking of us as a relegation level team. In order to get to where we want to go, because the league has changed so much, you have to spend and invest as though you plan to finish mid-table.
Dude, that's what I was getting to.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, I was.
That's why you can go for a guy like Jack. You sell him on the project. You say, hey, we're not looking to decide. Just listen to me for a minute. You just listen to me. If you sign before you go for Grealish, if you sign Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt for 45-50 million, this is a guy with 20 plus goals in the Bundesliga year after year. So one more year left in his contract, which is why I think maybe 2 years actually, which is why he's valued at 45 million instead of 85, right? You make a couple big statement signings like that. Then you go to a guy like Grealish and say, listen, City was a bad experience for you. This is a chance to come to one of the biggest clubs in England. We've signed some really elite talent from across the world. It's a great narrative. We don't even know that Aston Villa wants him back. Where's he going to go?
To a Champions League club across Europe.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
How many English players go and do that?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that Grealish won't.
That's what I'm saying. You have to at least have that ambition to have those conversations with a player like him. That's who you need to target if you're going to be serious. Because if you don't and you just try to fill in the gaps, I mean, we should be targeting players like in my opinion, we should be going for a Leandro Paredes from Roma. 1 year left, 5-6 million, 30 years old.
Going big with some of these Paredes and Grealish in the same window.
How much do you think Paredes' valuation is?
Well, you're saying wages don't matter, so I don't know.
No. His valuation, his transfer valuation, because of the contract he's on.
Is he a little bit older now? I'm unsure.
He's 30 or 31.
Yeah.
His transfer fee would be 5-6 million from Roma. That's what I'm saying. Like when you look at what some of these clubs that are like Aston Villa, look who they have. They have an excellent team. They would be challenging for top 4 in other leagues, I think. I really do think that.
Yeah, they would.
So you have to, if you're going to get there quickly, you cannot establish yourself as a bottom half team with bottom half talent with long-term contracts.
This is and you are right. You are right. I think, look, I love you, and you know I love you, but I think some of those picks are wild. But you'll disagree with some of my lowerly takes in maybe Gus Hamer, and I completely understand that. But
if you spend that kind of money on Gus Hamer, given his output in the championship, you're going to go down.
His output's been very good. It's the problem is it's his injury record and his discipline. He's overweight. And that's the problem when we need to lose a stone.
How did overweight players that can hit high levels do with us the last time we were in the Premier League?
Let's not go there.
No, but we have to. If you spend that kind of money for these types of players, you're going down. Like you have to leverage the 49ers have a really impressive amount of money. They have impressive networking. They have impressive pockets right now with the partnerships.
Yeah.
They can bring in a celebrity culture as well at the club. You have to establish that as this is where we're going. You have a chance to get on the ground floor and be our guy. And trust me, we'll be contending for Europe in a couple of years if you sign on the dotted line. That's different than, no disrespect to Burnley, right? Than like Burnley coming to one of those guys and saying, listen, we need you to stay in the Premier League. Like we're expanding our stadium now. Do you know, it's just a different project.
What in terms of, and everybody in the chat as well, let us know. I think the interesting thing about all this is, let me just finish that point, right? So I'll finish this point. So when it comes to Ipswich, it was a League One side, if we're being brutally honest, that's a recruit for that. Leicester, if we're looking at that entire attempt at the Premier League this season, was absolutely tragic, and there's so many details that you can go into there. But obviously with Maresca leaving and the recruitment, it was so poor. I think El Canouse is probably the one of which you kind of look at and go, that was a bit of a nugget there. Southampton, there was just, you might as well have just promoted us last season, because I think we'd have given it a better go than what they did this season. It was just a train wreck again. So I think there's a lot of context with the last couple of the last couple of relegations, and you even look at the team that finished 18th. The season before, and that was Luton. Luton gave it the best go, and look at where Luton are fighting at now. It's just, I think there is a gap to be bridged. And I think Leeds United are big enough. We have big enough backers. I think out of the 3 that go up, and that could be 5 of them right now. I think the revenue stream, I think the backing of Leeds United, the commitment that we have, and almost, well, in essence, ignoring January like we did and keeping the Coppers as a fund for this summer window could have been a genius move by the 49ers with just the confidence in the side. I think we're going to give it a really, really good go this season. I mean, in terms of just the excitement.
Wait, hang on, Connor. Let me interrupt and ask you a question. By the way, you're getting a lot of video lag. I'm not sure if it's me or you.
Let us know in the chat, everyone. I'm live on YouTube now on my screen, and it seems okay. Let us know in the chat. Guys.
It might be me. It might be me. Right. Yeah. I don't want to talk about Daniel Farke, so we'll just pretend we're not talking about Leeds United. We're talking about Beeds United with a random manager, with Connor McGilligan as the manager.
At last.
So here's the question I'd have for you. If we go up with you as the manager, none of these players I've mentioned are realistic targets. However, if I, as the chairman, sack you and I bring in Roberto De Zerbi, or I bring in Jose Mourinho, or I bring in another level of manager like that, any of the names I mentioned are in play. They are. That's the case for doing it, because it's not just about a club that's been recently promoted. It's bringing in a guy who is an elite manager that I can guarantee Billy Gilmore would say, "Oh, I'll play for De Zerbi." Absolutely. He did. So it's a different kettle of fish. And that's the case for upgrading the manager to a top. I mean, really, when you think about it, you're talking about like a top 10% in the world manager. It creates a different expectation for player signings. That's the point. So unless you want to be, and this isn't about Daniel Farke, I'm not making it about Farke. I would do it if we were called Deeds United, or if I was a Burnley fan, I would make the same argument. If I was a Sheffield fan, I would make the same argument. Different polls for those clubs, obviously. Not quite the same level of leads, not the same resources, but that's where my mentality is. And that's where I think you have to go, because I don't want to be, and I don't think the 49ers do either, spending big money every single year right on the threat of relegation. You can skip us ahead to being a mid-table side if you bring in a top 10% in the world manager and you invest a war chest of money for your first couple of years. That the star power, the revenue operations, it can all be on the same track as the football progress. That's the case. So it's not a case of not liking a manager. Again, if it was you, Connor, and I'm your friend, if it was you managing this team and got them to our result and went up, and I had a chance to sign one of those big guys, I would sack you in a minute. I would.
Harsh.
I would say, Connor, you're the man. Here's the full payout of your contract. You're going to get another job in another, a league that's, well, probably not France, or you don't speak any of those languages, do you?
Albania. That's probably my standard.
Yeah, Albania. But I would absolutely sack you, and because that's business. That's the best thing for the club.
Well, let's get into a couple of comments because they're flying in. Guys, please make sure you're slapping a like on the video. It seems like you're enjoying this as well, which is really good. We can make some follow-ups on this if you want us to do it, and we could sit down and actually find some specific tags. I know Gabe's already done it as well, but I can have a go at it as well if you want. Ryan says, if recruitment is right, there's no limit, although it will take time. Mark's in the building. Hey, Mark. Evening, guys. Hope you're both good. Crystal Palace are in the FA final.
I know. Wow. I'd love to see a top 4 team win. It'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. Ben says, Connor, actually keen to hear your opinion on wanting Ramsdale. Personally, I'd say he's not one of the better options out there. Kelleher is a dream and my number one target. Yeah, I think that the only thing with Ramsdale is when a goalkeeper, and I'll make this absolutely abundantly clear, when a goalkeeper comes out in an interview and says he regularly loses focus in football matches, that is panic stations for me. And he's admitted that in a couple of interviews now. I want to stay well away from him, Ben, when we are going to be facing what we're going to be facing this season, mate. It's going to be a tough old season. We've got to buckle in and get a reliable keeper for me who can do the basics. And look, not just the basics, but,
Ramsdale's goals prevented is horrible.
Yeah, he's poor. Yeah. And I think Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if his agent's touting him out to multiple clubs because I don't know if he's going to get a move as big again, but we'll wait and see. It might. I mean, Chelsea was sniffing around, but I'm not 100% sure if they're looking at a couple of goalkeepers this summer, and the track record with Sanchez hasn't been great. I just don't think the room mill will ever be 100% complete unless we sign Ryan.
That's a great comment, Ryan.
I think we've got to get one of them, haven't we, Ryan? We've got to get one of them. FIFA Cookie says, hey, do you give the chance for members to come on your show to give opinions? Thinking of subscribing to the show? We do, mate. Yeah, we've got a show over there on Patreon specifically. It's called Leeds Live Lounge. And then over here on our Instant Match Reactions and in the transfer window, we're going to be getting loads of bits on.
What's the lowest level of Patreon subscription, Connor? The lowest amount paid.
Well, I keep getting told to bump it up, and I haven't done it for 2 different semesters now. So it's I think it's £4.61. So
okay,
and that's
if someone's really struggling, they really want to get in on the community, you can email a oneleadsfanchannel@gmail.com and we can think about a sponsorship. But we definitely want that participation. We definitely want to hear.
Definitely. Yeah. And if you
Jason, I'm not saying we will get these players. I'm saying and you don't go all in on just Jack Grealish. I'm saying you have to have, there are Jack Grealishes in every league, right? You have to have those conversations with those players.
No, but what I will say on Jason as well is you're talking about some big names here, some big names. So I think how Jason's coming at it is, in the space of 3 to 4 minutes, you're mentioning Paredes and you're mentioning Grealish, and I think this because
you have to have 2-3 splash signings, and then the rest of them are going to be more pedestrian.
No, I think your ambition is unbelievable. I hope it's matched. I hope
I would take Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a backup on a free.
No, he can't walk, Gabe. He can't walk. But
we'll see if he passed the fitness test.
Do you know what I will say?
Ben Davies on a free. That's not a splash name.
Do you know what I will say? A striker who mirrors strong, physical. Is all of those things, but he's 6'2", 6'3".
Ekiteke from Frankfurt. I want him so bad. Put it out into space.
Did he say Mateta? Is that what you just said?
No, Ekiteke from Frankfurt.
Never be Mateta, but someone like that. We've not had a striker like that for years. It helped lead so much in build-up, getting out of stressy situations as well. I think a player like that would be perfect. That profile, right?
Ekiteke is 22 years old. This season, the Bundesliga, he's got 15 goals, 6 assists. He is tall, a bit of a monster, still room to improve, good finisher, hold up plays excellent, and he can move.
That's true. Rai says, I agree with Gabe. There's signings you could make that will help.
Calvert-Lewin on a free, Kai.
Survive. And there's signings that could take you to the next level. I think it's got to be a combination of the both. So blanket question, how much, and everyone let us know in the chat because it's just ballpark, how much do you think Leeds will and need to spend this summer to have a chance?
I think we need to, if I'll run through this, you tell me how realistic this is. I think you recoup 2 million for Rothwell, 15 to 20 million for Pirro, 6 to 8 million for Vober, 15 to 20 million for Strauch.
Rothwell's
1 million.
Rothwell's not our player.
Oh, that's right. So take that off. 1.5 million for Bamford, 6 million for Gruev, 9 to 10 million for Melier if we're really lucky, 25 million for Nanto. That adds up, and maybe you get 9-10 million for Aronson if a club's really stupid. That adds up to about 100 million in sales, right? Close to it, give or take here and there. And then for if I'll just name out the players that I want and what their valuations are, low end to high end, I'll go with a high end number. Jack Grealish would be 40 million. Grifo would be 10. Ekiteke would be 45. Johnson would be 7. Gilmore would be 15. Schufer would be 11. Ndiaye would be 5. Paredes would be 6. I'm not going to add Reyna in. Burgess would be 4. Free. So high end 158 million. So the net would be about 58 million. The spend would be about 158 million and close to 100 in sales. That's what
we've made that money as well. We've made a lot of money when you look at the accounts for this year.
But you have to buy into the fact that you would need to sell Aronson, Pirro, Vober, Byram. You wouldn't continue. I think he's on a 1 year and he would be free.
What does that? I'm going to put it in the chat, everybody. I want to. This one's the one that is probably quite interesting here when it comes to Peru. And Gabe, just obviously let us. There's a lot of people saying 150 million, 125 to 150 million. I think that's realistic, but also speak on Joel Peru now, and also let me know, what your thoughts are on him. Do you think he's able to make a bench option step up? I guess you can talk about Gruev there as well. I mean, how many are we talking about who can not only make the bench, because you've kind of got to be looking at replacing a lot of these players. If we've spoken about 4 or 5 making the starting lineup, that who's filling out that bench and who's not making that step up?
I think Peru would give you in the Premier League what would value to be about a 5 to 10 million pound striker in the Premier League. Like his output would be worth that, versus his value in the Championship, or what an Eredivisie team or Ligue 1 team or a Serie A team or La Liga team might pay for him. Right now, he's like a 15 to 25 million pound player. So I think in terms of that, like hit the max, if he adapts and does well, again, maybe he's worth 10 million in the Premier League. But you sell him now while you can get this kind of money for him, and you bring in a more proven commodity or a more upside commodity. I like Pirlo. You and I have argued about Pirlo for 2 years now. I like him, but I think there's no way that we recruit value on that contract if we bring him in the Premier League. There's too many levels in between the Premier League and the Championship. I think we sell him on to a higher level or to another Championship club. Another Championship club, that's a steal, because he's going to give you like 15, 20 goals every single year. Maybe he doesn't want to be a perennial Champions League player, but making the jump right to the Premier League, I don't think is in his wheelhouse. I think he would have to prove it with another step up instead of going like 4 or 5 steps up.
Mate, by the way, there is also an argument that Joel Peru's development right now, I don't know if he's ever actually systematically fit in at Leeds. I think he's actually done, I don't think he's ever systematically fit in like he fit in at Swansea. If he was to move on, you might get a Championship side who fit his way a little bit more, nursing that those attributes that Peru sort of strives on. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be really, really interesting.
And you're going to loan out Mateo Joseph. You're going to loan out Sam Chambers. You're going to loan out James Debayo. You're going to probably loan out Harry Gray. Although part of me hopes we don't. Part of me hopes we kind of keep him with the squad, but no, he needs to be loaned out.
Yeah, he just somehow he just turns into an absolute beast.
It's kind of what happened with Archie, sort of. Yeah, like we didn't really. He went from like youth team to glory. Listen, the guys I think you can keep, who I think, like I didn't talk about selling Dan James. Funny enough, I think he's an excellent second option at right wing in the Premier League. It depends on what you can get for him. If somebody comes in and wants to spend 35 million on Dan James, then excellent. God be with you.
Well, I guess we're looking as well at the interesting side of it is Ampadu and Strauch in terms of centre back. I guess starter and backup there. I would keep Pascal, but I completely agree with you. I don't.
His injury record's too bad, Connor. You can't have a guy center half at 25 who gets that injured every year.
But the big thing is when you're looking at the squad, I don't think in the Premier League you can get. Let's say hypothetically you do keep these two. I think Joe can make the step up.
Yeah,
I look at Max and I look at Ethan. Yeah. And I think I don't want to see these two in the conversation of centre back at all. I don't want to see Ethan Ampadu conversation of centre back.
I want Ethan Ampadu in that Tyler Adams at Bournemouth.
Yeah. And I think I want to see Ampadu in midfield partnered by Tanaka. I want to see that. And I think you're kind of looking at it right now where that option seems to be working in the Championship and can work at points. Even though
I don't know if it will. I don't know if you and I are different on this. I don't know that Ampadu is a starter at the Premier League level, but I'd be willing to see. I'd be willing to see him in camp with another defensive center midfielder and see how he gets on.
It's consistency again, Gabe. It's consistency again, but we've not seen enough of him. And do you know what the big thing?
Haven't seen enough of him at that level, and with a fair comparison to see.
And as well, there's injuries. There's injuries this season of which we need to take into consideration as well. Michael says, Connor, what happens to players outside the first 11? They'll be even better than we have now if recruitment is done well. That's kind of how we've got to look at it, Mike. It's kind of got to be one of those where you've got to just be looking at upgrades on some of these players is absolutely unequivocally key. You look at someone, let's just have a look at the squad here. You look at
it feels harsh, doesn't it? It feels like you're not appreciating what they've done for us at this level, but the reality is this is fair.
Yeah. And can I say as well, guys, just one thing as well that I just wanted to comment on before. There was someone a little bit earlier who said I think it was one of the Burnley fans actually, it might have been Chris, just enjoy the moment. And do you know what, guys? There's such an appetite now. This is everybody enjoying the moment because we're all like, oh my God, we can spend 150 million. We've got the 49ers there. This is enjoying the moment because everybody now, it's culture, isn't it, Gabe? Everybody wants what's next. And right now, not only is Bristol City next, but it is being overshadowed at the minute by transfers. People want to know what you would do. Look at the comments. The comments are flying through at this moment in time, and that just tells you that people are making up the mind of who they want to get where and who needs to leave. And this is the ruthlessness of football. So we're enjoying it. I'm still absolutely over the moon, and I will still be celebrating when Leeds play again. But it is kind of nice. I kind of am quite enjoying as well. Speaking about potential new additions, it's
almost have to start from zero when you go to the Premier League. I know it sounds really weird to say, but you almost have to just completely. I mean, the players that you're going to keep, let's actually count. You're going to keep like maybe 8 from the entire squad. That means, yeah. I don't mean in the 11. I mean the entire squad. So you keep Carl Darlow as your second goalkeeper, in my opinion. Yeah. You keep Jaden Bogle. You keep Ethan Ampadu. You keep Joe Rodon. You keep Isaac Schmidt for a backup role.
Dude, you got to keep Strauch. You've got to keep Strauch.
No, I sell Strauch.
You'd sell Pascal Strauch?
I would sell him to a league on side that's going to pay 20-25 million for him. I don't think he's good enough, Connor. I don't think he was good enough for the Premier League. I think he's excellent at the Championship. He's too fragile. He misses 9 or 10 games. It causes problems. You need an Iron Man in that position who's going to be he's not an excellent defender. He's not even an excellent defender in the Championship. You've seen it, right? When he comes back from an injury, which he always gets.
So couldn't you get Verber out then, in effect?
No, Verber's out. No, he's not on my keep list.
No, but what I mean is, couldn't you affect? Obviously, what I'm saying is, squad missing, Verber goes, and then you've got Strauch still there, and bring in another centre back as well.
No, because Strauch right now is worth 25, maybe 30 million pounds to a French side, or to I mean, what was it? PSV was looking at him last season. Not PSV. I'm sorry, PSG was looking at him last season. Like. It's player evaluations. If they don't play, a bench player in the Premier League is worth less than a starter in the Championship for a top team right now, just on the transfer market, right? So the whole reason why Solomon is going to be worth 25 million to Tottenham is because he's come and had a good season. If he hadn't gone on loan and sat on the bench, they wouldn't be able to sell him for 25 million, would they?
Go on then. So who else have you got?
I am going to keep Dan James as a backup.
Can I also say as well, I think Nottingham Forest are the outlier to this, but they are probably the only outlier to this. I do kind of agree with what Derby Days are saying here. Removing that many key players would have a massive impact on the dressing room. Strauch has been a leader for years.
Yeah, you have to reset the dressing room, in my opinion.
You can't do all that in your first season in the Premier League.
I think you can. I think if you keep guys like Rodon, you keep guys like Ampadu. These are leaders. You keep guys like
who else? Who's a leader?
I mean, those are 2 good leaders there.
No, I know, but you need a spine, don't you? You need leaders across the squad. There's a lot.
Who else is a leader across the squad?
Dude, there's a lot. Look at the midfield, right? The midfield.
No, I'm keeping out Tanaka, by the way.
So I know that, but let's look at the midfield. Okay, there's a lot of people talking about. I mean, I think selling Ramazani is a madness, but
I'm keeping Ramazani for backup.
But then you look at it, Solomon.
He may end up being a starter, but I'm keeping him as a backup.
But Solomon, Aronson, Rothwell, Gilavoggi, Gruev. I would say all of those 5, there is question marks over. And then you could even throw that some people would throw William Yonso in there.
Yeah,
some people would. Really?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I'll go through my sell list.
You are playing FIFA here, aren't you?
It's not FIFA. This is exactly what I would do. I don't think this is FIFA. Do you think Brendan Aronson's a Premier League player?
No.
Then sell him.
No, I know that.
But and he's worth like between 10 and 15 million on the open market, which is insane. You sell him for it now, because if you keep him in the Premier League, he's going to have like 1 goal contribution in the whole season. He's going to be worth 5 in a year. You have to sell him now, right? So you sell Aronson, you sell Pirro for 15, 20, 25 million. You sell Vober for that 6 to 8 million that the Bundesliga side wants for him. You sell Pascal because Pascal is not going to be worth over 20 million next season. He is not. He's worth it now, so you sell him now. Maybe you keep Gruev. I don't know. Maybe you do for continuity. Maybe you sell him in January. I don't know. But Gruev, I would sell for 6 million. Bamford's out the door. Mellier's out the door. And Nanto's out the door because some club's going to pay 25, 30 million for a guy who has not shown me an output that he's even elite in the Championship. It's all potential everyone talks about. It's getting old for me. I'm going to spend that money elsewhere to bring in proven players at top level at other clubs.
So let's just touch on Nonto then. So Nonto is a 23-year-old lad, a 21-year-old lad who's played Premier League before. He's
had
been
4 really good games in the Premier League.
Yeah, but he's been when he was 19.
Yeah,
and he was bought for like 4.5 million with no real expectation, if we're being honest. And then he comes down to the Championship, gets barely any minutes, but gets the same goal contributions as a guy who's played triple his minutes. So we're getting rid of this guy on what premise?
The value we can get for him versus the value he'd be in the Premier League.
Would we not pay for someone like Willy Gnonto now, though?
We would pay for someone better than Willy Gnonto. I'm not paying for a championship player who isn't a starter more than half the time, who didn't score more than 10 goals. No way. Well, you would pay 25, 30 million for a championship player with Willy Gnonto's minutes played and goals scored and questions about his fit in the squad and some of the other intangible stuff. If you would pay that money, your team's getting relegated next year.
Okay.
If you pay that money for Willy Gnonto.
I'm not. I think it's going to be big changes needed. Everyone in the poll has said I've just put where does Peru land? We've got start 12%, sell 25%, and 63% say bench. It's interesting.
Here's the thing, Connor. Here's the thing, as far as I can see it. If we're not ruthless, we're going to go down again.
I agree.
Like, we have to be ruthless, and we cannot weigh on, because remember, it's not Premier League Championship. It's Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, all these other leagues, Ligue 1, and then Championship. There is a huge pool of guys. I would rather get a guy who's in a top 4, top 5 team in Ligue 1 or Serie A or La Liga, or at one of the top 2 teams in the Eredivisie, who's scoring goals regularly, playing and building momentum for his career, than a guy like Willy Gnonto, who's... If Willy Gnonto could only go for 5 million, I wouldn't sell him. This is the key part of it. If he would only... If a club's like, yeah, we'll give you 10 million for Gnonto, I'd say no. I'd keep him. 100% I'd keep him in the Premier League. Because that's what he's like worth in the Premier League. But right now, he's worth like 25, 30 million. So that's what it comes down to. Like, if a player is more expensive to keep than he is to sell, and we're not sure about who he is, then we get rid of him. Like, if let's just say we went up the first season with Somerville.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have kept Somerville if we went up the first season. Because what did Somerville go for? 35, 40 million? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would need a 35, 40 million pound player anyway. So like, you go up with him, and if it's not clicking on, then you can sell him in January. He's not losing that value. But to languish for another Gnonto's had 2 average seasons in the Championship. No matter how you slice it, that's the facts. I'm not saying that's who he is or who will always be. I'm saying he's had 2 average seasons in the Championship. So he's not worth that amount of money. If somebody is willing to come pay for him, I'm going to invest that money in a guy that's given me high trajectory, high ceiling, but has actually proved to me that he can do it year in, year out, week in, week out at one of these clubs, one of these other top leagues. And I'm going to spend that money because 35 or 25 million will buy a good player from those leagues. Willy Gnonto is not in that league. So if somebody's going to spend money on him, then I'm going to take it. And that's how we should do with all our players going forward, or else we're not going to be in the Premier League. We're going to go right back down. It has to be about what's somebody worth now, what's somebody worth then, and what have they actually done? Like, what have they actually shown us year in, year out? We've had a couple of years, we've had 2.5 years to evaluate Gnonto. What do we think he is as a player right now, and versus the valuation? And if somebody comes in with that money, we take it. If they don't, then we keep him. Sure, bench player, or maybe proves me wrong. I'd be happy. I'd be happy if that happens.
Well, I think Reese has made a good point here as well. Our owners should be aware Bielsa, a manager that got a mid-champ team into the Prem and barely changed it. Said it needed 200 million rebuild to compete. I think that the Stonewall thing here is,
Bielsa wanted all new players.
He did, and the Premier League isn't what it was under Bielsa as well. The Premier League is now, the weakest teams this season outside of the bottom 3 for me on paper This is obviously the other teams getting better as well. When you've seen like Spurs and Man United losing 18 games, you're thinking, what is going on in terms of the balance of the Premier League? They're going to get better. In Man United's case, it's funny anyway, but we know Man United and Spurs aren't going to go down. You kind of look at, I mentioned this off air to Gabe, you looked at Wolves steadily improving towards the end of the season, a bit of a commitment there as well. The Cunha money. Look, when that does come in, their recruitment might be spot on, and already their squad is evolved anyway. You look at West Ham's squad. I mean, our best player last season can't get into that team. You look at a forward line of Kudus, you look at a forward line of Bowen, at Paqueta in there as well. The level is so high. So there's not it's really exciting for Leeds right now. And with what Farker was saying the other day, it's going to be early recruitment. It's going to be, a collaborative process, which some may seem as problematic and some may see as fantastic. Because obviously the manager has to have the final say. Completely understand that. But what the 49ers will have to do is go out there, and this will be the same for Sheffield United. If they come up, it'll be the same for, any of the other teams that come up, and go for it. I think, as I keep mentioning, I think Leeds have got the best chance just because of the backers, just because how big the club is, the money that the club has right now. And I think, obviously the income that we brought in as well. I think Leeds are at a state right now where we can give it the best go, but by God, it's going to be a tough challenge. They have to throw some massive. So the overarching point here is, Gabe, this scope right now, which has been on Farker. There's been interesting conversations about Daniel Farker from both sides. And I think what's interesting about it now is that the shift is moving away from Daniel Farker and should move away from Daniel Farker. And now that shift is on the 49ers, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens. If it is, indeed, sporting director level recruitment, which I'm not sure it will be. Like I said, I think it's going to be a collaborative process, but it's not going to be Farker picking all the players. It's going to be the 49ers and Adam Underwood picking these players, of which are going to make or break Leeds United's next campaign. It's massive.
I just want to remind everybody about what this club actually is. It sounds ironic.
Giant.
What?
It's a giant club.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds strange coming from an American, right? I get it. But if any other club had come to Marcelo Bielsa in the championship, they wouldn't have gotten through the door. Sorry, it just wouldn't have happened. Maybe that's harsh or whatever, but Marcelo Bielsa is one of the, not just on where he's actually been, but reputation, his influence on other managers. It's one of the godfathers of the modern game of football. It's irrefutable. For Leeds United, with the ownership we had, the lack of resources they had, to get Marcelo Bielsa while we were in the championship speaks of how big of a deal this club is. So I'm not saying that you make one plan, you go for broke, you go for all these big names, and if you don't get them, we keep all the players we have and we're up a creek. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you have to start swinging around your weight, your money, and your reputation and go for these big names, because there are some, it's not just a matter of, I want to play. They're going to want this. They're going to want to get that. People are complex. If you're a player who's not gotten a lot of love in the place, you came in with a huge valuation, you're signed for $100+ million, and you're seen as whether it's fair or not, as a complete bust. And we can tell you 57,000 rabid fans will be chanting your name at Ellen Road, at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And we're coming in, we're at low end of the Premier League, but we're not going to stay there. We're going to be ambitious. We're going to sign people from all across the world and create a world-class team, because it gets harder every year in the Premier League. You just mentioned it. The bottom 8 this season, to have Tottenham and Manchester United in the bottom half of the table,
crazy.
It's not going to be easy, guys, unless you shoot for the absolute moon. Even if you don't get exactly who you want, that's the level of ambition and spending you have to have, or else you're going to be in a position of relegation. And I can guarantee you the investors aren't going to play that. They're not going to spend this kind of money to renovate the ground, to expand it, they're working on all these sponsorships and trying to create a celebrity culture just to go back down. No way.
Well, you've been making some big claims about the Niners. Some big claims about the Niners, and I'm trusting you in that, mate. But it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously,
don't trust. I'm not in the know. Let's be clear.
No, I know
I'm
you're
just talking from my perspective as probably the closest thing we have to a venture capitalist in our ecosystem.
Yeah, you are. But with Nonso, it was sell, start, bench. I put on there as a poll. 24% have said sell. Interesting. 28 have said start and 48% have said bench. That is a majority for Nantes on the bench and Peru on the bench. Interesting.
Loyal fan base. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Arthur says 3 down next season. Don't laugh. Spurs, Man United. Wait, 3 next down. That's right. Okay, scum is Man United. Okay, Spurs, Man United, Everton. Yeah, mate. I'll bet you right now none of those teams go down. In fact, I'll bet you a sizable sum. Don't need reminding.
We've got time for Arthur because he's always here, but
he's always here. Is Arthur? We need to make him a mod. All due respect, Gabe, we are a massive club, and yes, we should be trying to get the players that get us mid-table at least. Even though next season goal is survival.
My response to Ben, though, is that I do think that some Leeds fans have been conditioned to expect the worst.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So I know that everyone knows how big the club is, but I think there's this prevailing sense that the glory days are done, and we're always going to be suffering. That's the sense that I get, and that's what I'm speaking to.
It's understandable after all the years of hurt. I think I get it.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Yeah.
But it is.
I feel like Mufasa in the air saying, "Remember who you are."
It's interesting when we're not really taking into consideration as well. We're not really. Yeah, sorry, straight over my head. Such a nerd.
The Lion King's not a nerdy film. I guarantee you grew up watching it.
It's nerdy to mention on a one lead.
Did you not watch it when you were a child?
I'm sure I did at some point. Yeah, at some point. I was too cool, mate.
You're too busy getting dropped by your dad.
Yeah, on my head.
No, drop from the team.
They're both. Jimmy says, for us to stay up, we need whoever comes with Burnley to go down with Burnley, then hope aside as a poor season. Yeah. Howard says Bamford going nowhere. Yeah. I don't know, Howard. Honestly, I
would take $1 million for Bamford.
Yeah, there's no, for me, I kind of get what Howard's saying here. I kind of get, he's got, it's the keeping him on the end of the contract. Do you see Leeds going out, and everyone in the chat as well, do you see Leeds going out and getting an out and out number 9 now? Do you see us going out and obviously, let's say, so for your standpoint, Peru, I know you want to sell Peru, and I think the stock, I agree with you. I think I would sell Peru, get him when his stock's high right now, get some really good money in for him, look at maybe a couple of strikers, one, maybe that's a bit of an understudy. People in the chat were saying, Connor, I thought you said Joseph was this, that, and the other. Well, it's just the proof, isn't it, guys? He's not, we can't make a judgment on Joseph right now. There's a conversation about him.
He needs to go on loan to La Liga and see what
he does.
If he scores like 11, 12 goals in La Liga next season, great. Then this is a player that we can continue to develop. It's too early to say. Yeah, it's one thing to say that we had arguments about whether he should be starting now or whether he's a future Leeds player. He's clearly not ready for the Premier League. There's no evidence.
No. And quite rightly, everybody, there is an argument he's not ready for the championship as well. And I will say that my whole argument always for Matteo Joseph has been, I think there's a player in there. But he needs to harness that right now. Could that be maybe an Ipswich next season? I was saying earlier on in the video that he sort of is someone, in my opinion, who would sort of suit their data model, especially if Delap's going to leave and maybe George Hurst. That could be something, or it could be La Liga or Serie A. But from everybody's perspective, then, is it a case of 2 strikers in or just the one, and that's going to cost a lot of money?
I was waiting for someone to make the joke. Ian Jackson said Haaland on loan. I was waiting for someone to say, bring him home. I was waiting for it.
Bring him home.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so what are you thinking then? Do you think it's going to be 2 strikers, or do you think it's going to be 1?
It's got to be 2 strikers.
2?
Got to be. Yeah. I think the positions that need the most overhaul are center attacking mid, striker, and then we need 1 potential starter at center half and midfield, and then depth pieces as well. Then obviously we need a left back clearly. But so yeah, I think we're talking about 7 or 8 signings and 7 or 8 players that are better than the ones we have. So you're going to have to look at what's probably going to happen is you're going to recruit from like mid-table sides and top leagues, and we're going to be mid-low table struggling to survive. I'm saying,
are there any championship players, just to interrupt, that you would take the cream of the crop championship that can transition into the Premier League?
I
like the look of Isidore, I have to say.
Not for the money that we'd be asked to pay for them.
I think Sunderland, you might be surprised with Sunderland.
I mean,
Job, Bellingham, not a bad shout.
Yeah.
He's got the
I don't
PR.
think he's gonna. He's got the PR behind him.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. He's got the PR team behind
He's like
him.
the Shador Sanders of. I don't know if you've been following the NFL draft, but
Leffen says Hamer, Easton, or Belly. I don't mind that Leffen. I wouldn't. It probably wouldn't be all three, but definitely one or two of them, and they'd have to.
I think Bellingham's going to go abroad. I think he's going to end up going to like
stinks of like Leverkusen, doesn't it?
Yeah, a Dortmund or I mean, because he wants to. I think he wants to follow in his brother's footsteps. So.
Yeah, and I think he's got.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
strong footsteps to follow.
Yeah, I can't imagine him coming to the Premier League right now. I think he is going to go abroad, get that reputation a bit higher. They're going to make some money, by the way, Sunderland. They're going to make some real money. I think their recruitment models work that well. They're going to make some serious money this window. But once again, the Championship, you don't want too much change. But there's an argument. That can work the other way in the Premier League as well. Mike says Wolves without Cunha will be fit for the drop, along with the other two that come up with us. Yeah, Wolves are probably the most vulnerable.
Have you seen Wolves' form lately?
Yeah, they've been very good.
Was it 6 in a row they've won?
Yeah, they've got a good team. They've got a good team. They have got a good team. Just need to almost.
That's the thing. Even the bad teams in the Premier League are really good. This isn't like when we were in the Premier League. We got what did we go down with points wise? And we had. I don't want to go through the names because people will think we're slagging off players, and I don't want to do that. But let's put it this way: I think our Championship side now would beat that. Wait, I'm gonna pull back on that because I remember all the players we had injured as well. I'm like, okay, maybe they wouldn't. But point being is, that if we assemble another side that looks like, and we didn't have any depth in the Premier League either. Like we were okay until we had a couple of injuries, and it was just like, okay, we're bringing in.
That was it. You're bringing like McKinstry and McCarron with the greatest of respect, weren't you? And Joffy and Greenwood. It was, and they've surely got overlooked at that. They've surely got overlooked at that and thought this has got to be. I mean, what did we finish that season? It was 19th, wasn't it? Yeah. Season before it was 17th.
Yeah.
And we finished on, interestingly. Listen to this, right? The Championship, the Premier League. What are they about to go down with now? Right, I'm pretty sure it's 21. I could be wrong.
Kim's comment. I appreciate what you're saying. I'm not looking at Austria, but Italy, Germany, France, 100%. Yeah.
Here's one for you, and how much it's developed. When we went down, so Ipswich are about to go down effectively because they probably will lose another three or four games. The fixtures don't look great either. So let's say they pick up a win or a draw. They'll get to maybe 22, 24 points. Ipswich, third bottom, are on 21. Leeds went down with 31 points under Sam Allardyce.
Wait, let's not call it Sam Allardyce. He didn't get any points.
Went down under him. Went down under
Sam Allardyce won no points for us.
And just context there.
Under Marsh and Grazia. We went down with that many points.
Southampton lost 27 games. I've lost 27 games with 4 games left. Leicester have lost 24 games with 4 games left. Ipswich have lost 21 with 4 games left. Leeds all season lost 21. And remember how bad that was. just for context, everybody. Leeds that season won 8 games. Ipswich have won 4. Leicester have won 4. Southampton have won 2. That's the Cas. That's how we all thought it was awful. We had obviously 3 managers, whatever it was, 4 if you count Scoobs, and how bad that last season was. We will probably finish with 10 points more than the team that is finishing third bottom this time.
Yeah, our team, as bad as it was, and with the manager as bad as he was, went to Anfield and won. You know what I mean?
I beat Bournemouth.
Yeah. There's no way that these teams that are about to be relegated go to Anfield and win, even against that poorer Liverpool side than this year. So.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy, and
I'm surprised we haven't got any shouts for Josh Sargent, as if I want him because he's an American. Usually that happens. Like, Gabe, do you rate Josh Sargent? No, he's a good Championship player. Keep him there.
Leeds is. Yeah, Nige, do you know what, mate? This is an interesting question because Hammond's leaving at the end of the season, I believe, to go to Everton with what we know. We know, obviously, Kinnear's going to Everton at the end of the season as well. I think Adam Underwood has been promoted, but I can't...
Seems Steinson's still very involved.
He is, but I think he's moving over to a different sort of Red Bull faction, isn't he? I think that's the plan. He's helping a lot with Rangers at the minute as well, apparently, and the pursuit of that. So I don't think he's as heavily involved as well. So yeah, from recruitment wise, I think it's I think it's Adam Underwood, and I'm not that clear.
They'll have all kinds of people that we don't know.
Yeah.
Like they'll have a huge recruitment staff.
Just not like forward facing at the minute, I guess. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Anyway, we'll leave it here. We've got 940 of you watching on YouTube. Shout out to all of you. And we have 1,000. Oh, I can actually see who's watching on what. We've got 277. Say hi to Twitter. For some reason, there's no one watching on Facebook. I don't know if it's just not gone out on Facebook. Fantastic. But we've got
Mark Zuckerberg's decided that we're not masculine enough because we're not an MMA channel.
I have absolutely no idea why that hasn't gone on Facebook, but there you go. So shout out to all of you on Twitter and all the YouTubers as well. Before you leave, please make sure you slap a like on the video. Really helps the algorithm. We are also sponsored by Shop GNO, everybody. Get involved. You've got to get involved. They've got a signed Calvin Phillips shirt. There's an end date coming. I think it's the 4th of what are we on now? 4th of May. I'm losing track. 4th of May. Get involved in that. Sign up. It's worth 25 quid. Get involved, and you also get, we're doing a raffle, and I'm doing it live on here for one of you getting 100 quid as well. So there's loads of prizes. First link in the description below. People have said as well that they want 2 strikers. 70% have said 2, 20% have said 1, and 10% have said 3. Alex Davis, sorry, Jordan. I think I said, yes, you're right. Alex Davis. And then has Underwood been promoted? I think Underwood's been promoted. But shout out to you for that, Jordan. Thanks so much, mate. But yeah, guys, as I say, let's rack up those likes. Really appreciate it. And we will be back next week for another version of the Hardline. Cheers.
Cheers.